You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by Focus-Biz.com. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We're going to chat a little bit, kind of going off of our previous one, on how to deliver good news. This is going to be the exact opposite, and how to deliver bad news messages in a positive way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. Framing bad news in a way that it's better received.
Minimizing the negative impact.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I get it. And that's a skill. That is something that not a lot of people do well, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they feel like just getting the bad news out is just the easiest way to go about it, kind of thing.
Because they're filled with anxiety about the bad news.
Yeah.
They got to get it off their chest now.
Right. I understand that part too, but there definitely should be some like a little air gap essentially between the bad news and them receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
It has to go through a filtering process sort of thing.
Right. You basically want to craft the message in a way where the reader is almost anticipating the bad news,
mm-hmm.
and they can justify it to themselves as if I would understand why you would say no, and here's the no, and
mm-hmm.
now I understand why. And
mm-hmm.
that's kind of the point of delivering that bad news, is making sure it's received in the best way possible.
Right. I mean, and there is some news that is damn near impossible to make sound good.
Right.
Like if somebody's tree falls on their roof, but the insurance isn't going to cover the roof because it's 20 years old and they said actual cash value, but nobody told you that. That's really fucking hard to tell people.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's not covered. You have to pay out of pocket for your whole roof now. Yeah, that's how you end up in a lawsuit, kind of thing.
How would you break that news to me?
I would say, hey man, so I did some looking in. I talked to pretty much everybody I could have talked to that could get their hands into this. And unfortunately, the tree falling on your roof, specifically on the roof itself, that is currently listed under actual cash value coverage. So it wouldn't actually be replaced by the insurance company. The siding, on the other hand, we can do. Removal of the tree, we will take care of.
Mm-hmm.
But the damage to the roof itself, unfortunately, that's just going to be one of those things that the insurance is not going to cover, just based on the limits of your policy here.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that was pretty great.
Yeah, I'm really good at this.
You're like, I'm the king of letting down.
No, but that is, like I gave effort to try and help you.
That is a great way to start out the conversation. Like,
right.
I went to bat for you. I'm on your side.
Exactly. We're on the same team here. I'm not trying to fuck you over on nothing, man. This is just what happened. I'm the middleman here, I used to do that a lot at State Farm when people's claims will get denied or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, hey, man, I talked to everybody on you and I are on the same team here.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, this is just what happened, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, most of the time, you just got to be quiet and let them bitch for 5 minutes
mm-hmm.
because ego. And then generally, there's a part of understanding where the emotion calms down and the logic starts kicking in,
mm-hmm.
and then they'll start recalling things. And
right.
some people just don't want to admit that it's okay to be wrong,
mm-hmm.
or that maybe I should have done this differently and then this would have been covered.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't want to admit that, so that doesn't always help people.
Right. I understand that.
Mm-hmm. I understand that too. It's hard. It absolutely is hard. So yeah, that's how I would tell somebody specifically, kind of explaining the situation in a way that when, like it says here, like when the negative news comes,
mm-hmm.
they're sort of prepared. They've kind of already accepted that there's probably not going to happen. If it would have been good news, you would have just been like, hey, good news.
Right.
But that's not how the call went. So, yeah, and just try to do it in a favorable way,
mm-hmm.
in a way that's not putting blame on anybody,
mm-hmm.
which is really important, because a lot of times, in my position, you don't want to put blame on yourself or the carrier, because that leads you open to lawsuits.
Right.
Now, if you did fuck up, you're open to lawsuits regardless.
Right. But sometimes making that apology when it wasn't your fault
mm-hmm.
can paint you in a bad light.
That's true too. Yeah.
That's actually one of the sections that we're going to cover in this bad news segment, is sometimes an apology can make a bad situation better, but other times it can make it worse. If the bad news is something you had no control over, apologizing can even make you appear in the wrong, even though you're not. So I think that's really important, is to apologize when appropriate, take responsibility when appropriate, but just being apologetic isn't going to change the situation.
That's true. You can be apologetic to their circumstance.
Absolutely, but not taking
without taking ownership of it. And I think that's a really important line to make sure you're on the right side of.
Right. So for a message that you're trying to craft when it comes to that apology, where it's not really your fault, be apologetic to their situation.
Right.
100%. That is so huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you're in a bad situation. I'm
Right.
really sorry about that.
Right.
I'm happy I'm not. I just can't do this in a way that, I don't know. We're doing good.
Hey, good news and bad news. Bad news is your shit's not covered. Good news is I'm getting a new
Yeah, right.
I'm getting a new car. Like,
I was thinking about the Bo Burnham things. There's terrible things in this world. Hunger, famine, sickness. But I'm just happy none of that shit's happening to me.
you know, income inequality. The other stuff.
The other stuff.
That just covers it perfectly. Like,
Yeah. Right.
but I think within that apologetic scenario, you're going to want to cover kind of those things that a customer in your shoes should not have to go through X, Y, or Z. Kind of set that up, showing that you heard and understood them and that you're empathetic to their situation here.
Right. Right.
But don't go in just apologizing because you can appear fake. It's less genuine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So kind of be yourself. Just
Yeah.
not too much of yourself.
And I feel like a lot of people that aren't necessarily very good at this specific skill, they do just over apologize because they feel like that's what you do.
Right.
You just say sorry
Right.
a bunch.
Yep.
But, you can't just say sorry we messed up, or you can't even give it in that sort of context. You can be 100% sorry that they're in the situation they're in, but you have to make sure that that's kind of where you're coming from, sort of thing.
Yep. And on the flip side, you have those people who don't like to apologize. They prefer to just skirt around that, and they have their own way of apologizing. They feel like they apologized.
Right.
Like, I state my regret.
I feel like I owe you an apology.
Like that is their apology.
That's how they say it. Like,
Go
you're fucking
on.
right. Go on.
Like, nope, that's it. But you gotta be authentic when you're using it.
Yeah, being authentic. And that's where these types of skills, the good news, the bad news, it takes practice. Like, you have to actually, the only reason I'm able to do it as smoothly and kind of, well as I have is because I've been doing it for 9 years. I've had to have that conversation before.
Right.
I've had to tell somebody that, sorry, that person slammed into your car, but we're not fixing it because you chose state minimum liability only. I only want insurance in case I get pulled over. I don't get the $15 ticket. All right. Sure. No problem, bro. And then you get into an accident, you call me upset about it. I'm sorry you're in the situation you're in, but hey, these were choices that were made which led to the situation you're in now. And
you say that explicitly to the customer, right?
well, I mean, fucking sometimes you have to. Sometimes you just be like, I won't. Okay, I'd be like, when we were setting up your policy, we definitely discussed the different liability limits that are included on the policy. We discussed the comprehensive and collision and the benefits those may have had to your policy. Unfortunately, when we wrote everything down, the coverages that were chosen, not the coverages that you chose, the coverage options that were chosen did not include these coverages. So that's what lands us in the situation we're in right now.
That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear as if internet land heard Adam for the first time talking about insurance. And here he is, just being an absolute a-hole. Just like, this is how I talk to my customers. You want insurance? Come get it. I'm not going to reach out.
How I just did it was absolutely perfect.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I said, how would Adam say this to a normal customer?
How would Adam say this?
How would Adam Morris?
The fuck I'm supposed to do about it, man? Like, it's not my insurance; it's yours. I told you what it was. You wanted to pay $15 a month. This is what you get for $15. You get what you pay for. Fuck
Customer
off.
response is an '86 Honda. How dare you?
Yeah, right.
Hey,
Right.
man, this has leather seat covers. Okay, it's worth more than that.
Oh yeah, I love that. It has a sunroof. Like, okay, then it's probably gonna leak.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
No, that's great.
But anyways, again, if it's your fault, it's okay to sort of take blame. If it's the customer's fault, don't tell them it's their fault. Just say the choices that were made ended us in this position. And then they're either going to take ownership of it and be like, oh shit, this was my fault, or they're going to continue their emotional reaction at you and be like, well, you should have told me this and you should have known and just whatever. I mean, that sometimes you just got to sit there and let them bitch, right?
Right. No, that's perfect. And I think the way that you kind of set up that communication technique is presenting bad news objectively.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yep.
Bad news should appear as a logical outcome. You have to present it objectively and positively as the situation allows it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you trying to take sides, one or the other, you really just have to go in as a statement of fact.
Yes.
And that is how you try to remain neutral within that conversation, so that you're not taking sides. You're not appearing as if you're working for one or the other. Just say, hey,
Right.
these are the facts here.
Right. Or, I mean, in my situation, I can tell the customer, like, hey, man, I'm on your side here, all right? I don't work for the carrier. I work for you right now. And I'm at the bat for you. Unfortunately, this is just how it's playing out. This is how the cards are falling over the time.
I think that would be the same for a lawyer consulting their client. It just, these are the facts. This is where we're at. Even though I'm on your side, I'm going to bat for you.
Right.
You know the DA isn't going to accept a plea deal or for this amount or like this,
Sure.
Just kind of set that up. But it's important for you to be objective.
Right.
Now, if a lawyer comes in and says, this 10 years looks pretty good. I'm meeting the DA for drinks after this, so, if your family can never get you out on bail, why don't you come meet us? Like, you're clearly working for the state. Like, you're not on my side.
Right. Right.
I think beyond that, a couple of those situations that you mentioned, offer an alternative solution. What actions can be taken for the future to prevent the situation again? And I think in your customer's situation, let's review your coverages.
Oh, yeah.
And let's take a look at if you actually wanted replacement cash value for a specific product coverage. What would that look like?
Right.
And
But for the time being, I have three companies that can come out and take it. I can give you all their names, or I can give you the one that I feel like I would use. But either way, I'm going to give you three of them. That way you can't sue me if you choose one and you don't like them.
that's exactly it.
They still could, but fuck them.
It's a powerful strategy for maintaining goodwill.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like, sorry that you're in this situation. I can try and do my best to help you clean up the situation. And then after that's done, because that's the pressing thing right now. You have a fucking tree leaning on your house. Like, we got to get that off, right?
Right.
We got to get that off. We got to get your roof. I got a couple roofers I could recommend. Maybe they'll work with you a little bit, knowing the insurance isn't going to cover it. And then after that, you're going to come in here. I'll just tell them, like, this sucks. This is a sucky situation. You're going to come in here. I'm going to pull up your policy, and we're going to go over every single thing to make sure you are, you know what's going on here. This is your house. This is your investment value. This is your thing. You own this. It's your home. You should know how it's being protected and what it's being protected from. And I try to go at that initially before anything, that sort of situation happens. But sometimes people just don't want to listen to it. Sometimes they're just like, just sell me the fucking insurance, move on. Okay, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think after presenting that bad news, offering an alternative solution, you always want to try to end on a positive note. Your goal here is to shift the reader's thoughts to the future and being friendly, conversational comment. Your comment should fit the topic of your message, and it should not recall the negative message.
Right, sure.
And that can be handled a few different ways. Sometimes it's...
I feel like that's worded kind of fuckeredly. Your comment should fit the topic of your message, and it should not recall the negative message, but the topic is negative.
Absolutely. Maybe don't focus on what you can't do for them.
There you go.
You're still on the topic, but here's what you can do for them. And that'll kind of shift that positivity,
For sure.
I think,
Yep.
over to it.
That was a good way of putting it.
Now, even though we kind of went out of order here, that's kind of the ending of those topics here. But two that we slightly touched on, but really didn't cover yet, is just setting up for the negative news. And that's explaining the situation in a way that by the time that news comes, that they're prepared to receive it already. And that is the best situation that you can kind of hope for. When you're going in objectively, stating facts, providing an alternative solution, you're kind of showing to them that, yes, this is a bad situation, but here's our options. Here's what we can do. And again, being objective, you're not showing bias towards one side or the other.
Right.
Again, you can still be on their side, go up to bat for them, but really about how you kind of set yourself up for that. When you're delivering that bad news, a strategic buffer can be really helpful. It's an opening that identifies the subject of the message, but it doesn't indicate that negative news is coming. One of the things that you kind of mentioned was the person with that car accident issue, kind of letting them know, here's the facts, here's what was set up, and unfortunately, you're presenting that bad news objectively now with the coverages that were chosen. Here's your situation and what can or can't be done. But that strategic buffer can really be helpful when you're trying to deliver really bad news to someone.
Right. That's that air gap between the facts and how they're going to receive it. It's the sort of filtering and navigating around just their emotion. Like you gotta try and set up and not predict. You have to intend a certain emotional reaction from them, and that'll require you to think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it.
Right.
Because if you want them to get all pissed off and raging, just be like, yeah, I know you pay $1,000 a year for your insurance, but we're not covering it. They're going to be pissed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a bad way of doing it.
I'm just going to be honest with you. We're not covering it. This phone call's over.
Thanks for wasting my time, jackass.
You speaking to the customer. Thanks for wasting my time.
That's terrible, though. That's terrible.
Calling me with an uncovered claim. Are you kidding me?
I'm not making money off of this.
The
Fuck
nerve.
off. The nerve. But also at the same, like I said, having an intention of how you want them to react and how you want the result after all of this to be. If your intention is to try and save this client, save the business, then yeah, you're going to go at it in a more tiptoe fashion, skirt around the bullshit. If you don't care and it's not any, sweat off your back or whatever like that, yeah, just say what you got to say then. And some people don't like the fluffy beat around the bush type of shit. Some people just want to know, is my roof covered or not? No. All right, I got to move forward and take steps to get this taken care of, kind of thing. Some folks are like that, which I appreciate those people. But at the same time, you have to be aware that not everybody's like that, and just having that buffer between the bad news and how they're going to take it, and having intentions there, trying to navigate that takes a skill. It's a skill you have to build up, but it's an important skill to have.
Right, absolutely. And I think I always like to compare that, what you described is basically perception versus reality. Reality, that's the facts. That's the objective truth. That's what it is. And your perception are your own personal experiences and biases that are changing how you perceive reality. And if it's not fitting in with the things you've been told already, you're going to reject that information. So I think it's important, like you said, are you trying to continue that relationship or not? I feel like if everybody went with the intention of, you're an important person, I don't want to ruin this relationship with, our conversations would be much more positive and just better overall. We would stop making so many enemies. We would stop being so divided. If we actually had the intent of, I'd like to continue this relationship. But unfortunately, that's not the case. People are so ready to write someone off. Like, you're not a person I respect or care about, so I don't care how my words affect you.
Sure. I mean,
so with that being said, please, go fuck yourself.
With all due respect, sir. Fuck right off.
Little demotivational speaker for you.
Yeah. That's funny.
But hey, man, we get bad news all the time.
Yeah, we do. We get bad news all the time. All the time we get bad news. Like, when you think about a college rejection letter, it's 5 paragraphs long for them to say no with a finger, I mean, you're not good enough for our college. Go somewhere else.
Ever since our inception in 1932, we've been dedicated to transforming the lives of young Americans. And
right.
Just tell me I'm rejected.
Exactly.
Just get to it.
You're scanning for the information, for the news, because they're not sending it in a good way.
Right. They're trying to fill in this air gap.
Yeah, they're trying to fluff it so that when the information gets to you, you're like, oh well, they've been around for 175 years. So.
I'd reject me. I get it. Thank you for telling me I'm wrong.
But I think the college rejection letters is like a good example of how it's a bad news. They try to spin it in a positive way. And some people just accept it, or some people get really pissed off about it because there is no specific intention to deliver that news to that specific person. It's just a broad no kind of thing, which happens. Sometimes you just get denied for shit, like a bank loan or something like that. It's a bunch of fluff. They try to ease it in there, but it's still going to be no. There's no person calling you to try to direct the conversation,
right? And they're not reacting to your reactions.
Right.
It's just copy paste sort of bad news letter,
right?
And that's just what it is. But I'm sure within those letters they try to craft it in a similar way that we kind of described here. They're going to go through objectively the facts that led to their determination. They're obviously going to say no later on, but you should feel better about being rejected. You should understand why they're rejecting you.
Right. Yeah, being told why you're being rejected, I feel like almost helps it a little bit more. Kind of like a bank loan sort of denial or credit card denial or something like that. Like being told specifically why they're saying no, just like, you don't meet our threshold for credit, blah blah blah. I'll be like, oh, okay, I get, my credit score is not high enough. All right, I get it. But they don't say that. They just be like no, and then they'll send you a letter saying that the FDIC says I have to mail you this letter telling you that we said no.
We're legally obligated.
Right.
Just tell me you don't want to do it.
Yeah, just say no. I mean, or send me to somebody else that maybe will help somebody with poor credit, help build their credit so that they can come to you in a year.
Alternative solutions.
Right.
Providing a game plan for the next steps.
Yeah, providing a game plan. And that would by itself end it on a positive note.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I mean, shit, I have to deal with insurance. Like I cannot write insurance for you with all of the carriers I have. You're that bad of a driver. I can't help you. But I have this one person that can specifically get you a policy, probably going to be a little expensive, but you will at least have insurance, kind of thing. And mainly for DUIs and shit like that.
Yeah, well, SR-22 is going on. Where's that in aircraft?
That is what it is. Yeah, that's the filing, state filing. SR-72 Blackbird, I think, is the thing.
That's what it is.
Yep. I was right, 72. Nice. But yeah, the one you said is the state filing.
Okay.
So bad news sucks, obviously. Giving bad news can really cause anxiety to people, you know?
Absolutely. But sometimes it's just in everyone's best interest when you're kind of just upfront with them and saying, I don't think we're the right fit for you. And that's okay.
Right. Just don't look at them and say, you don't fit here.
Right.
That stings.
That'll give you PTSD for God knows how long.
Time plus tragedy equals comedy. We've just proved it right now. Jeez.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Maybe they could have delivered that news.
See? She could listen to this podcast and be like, maybe. But, that was how many years ago?
Sure.
That's funny.
Listen, I don't want you here because you make me feel creepy.
Yeah.
And your head's all fucked up.
Yeah, your head's all fucked up.
Nothing specific, just like the head. Like physically, emotionally, yes.
It's the head. It's the head I can't get past.
All this over here. But yeah. I feel like, again, it's a matter of perception, reality,
right,
and trying to deliver that message, that end result, in a clever way that doesn't destroy the human being.
Right. Navigating their ego, trying to be respectful of it, and again, but it all intends your attention. If you're trying to save the business, save the relationship with this person, then yeah, you should go about it in a certain way, and not just shout out the bullshit. Like, some people maybe lack a little bit of maturity, lack experience in general, and those change over time though, if you care to address it. I mean, I know I've met 50-year-old dudes who have been doing insurance for 30 years, and I'm just like, how? I don't like you by looking at you. Like, what the fuck? Like, what do people see in you? Poor communicators. They smell. They got cat hair all over them, and I'm just like, wow. I'm like, they probably do a lot of email. But whatever. That was totally off topic, I guess. That really didn't mean anything. I understand that we are having a conversation, and I bet your input would have been really great to it, to add to it, add to depth to it, add some oomph to the topic itself. Unfortunately,
due to unforeseen circumstances.
due to unforeseen circumstances, you're an asshole.
I was like, this dude's buttering me up. What?
Right.
What? Just say it. It's just.
And sometimes it can sound that cheesy and corny. Unfortunately, it really can.
A good fit. That's what the good fit.
Good fit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, like you said, if it's not a good fit, that's a part of managing expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you were so desperate to get the sale and you said, I'm going to bend over backwards to make this happen and to serve you.
Right.
There's going to be a huge breakdown in communication and expectations going forward. That is not a relationship worth saving in that aspect, where you would put too much time and effort into this one sale and trying to please this one person who ultimately will probably never be pleased.
Right.
Because there's a difference in expectations there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to deliver bad news in the way that says, I just don't think we're the right fit for each other.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard. It's kind of hard to say that, especially if you're desperate, you're hungry for the sale, you're hungry to get to that area. Turning somebody down on purpose is like, it seems really dumb to do. It really does. But just like you said, it turns into more of a problem later on than it's worth in every aspect of it. Your time, your emotional stress that they're going to cause on you, calling you, texting you, emailing you 24 hours a day with piddly ass problems. I've had those customers before. And frankly, when I was at the State Farm on 60th there, I have had to tell people, this isn't working. Your expectations of our office is just not meeting what we're able to provide.
Their perception versus reality.
There you go.
They perceive, I want someone on call 24/7.
Yep.
Listen, baby girl, we shut down 4:30 on Thursdays, okay?
2:30 on Fridays. Better hope we don't have casino plans. Shit. That's funny.
But I think that's really important.
It is.
Just understanding the value of your time and where it's best spent.
Yep.
Because the 8 to 10 hours you could spend servicing that one client that week,
Yep.
think of all the other people you could have serviced, helped, cold called,
Right.
enhanced relationships with. That time is gone now.
Right.
And now it's been dedicated to someone who is never going to be pleased,
Right.
no matter what you do.
Right.
So unfortunately, it's a bad use of your time.
Bad. This is unfortunately is one of those negative type of episodes, but we're trying to just discuss that there is, in reality, there is negativity, and navigating that and presenting it so that their perception isn't altered too much, because that's when you get the breakdown of fucking people.
If either party is living in a fantasy land, then you can never manage those expectations, and it's always going to be bad news.
Right.
It's always going to be created in this negativity.
Yeah.
And that's not what you're looking for. And I hope what the listeners are going to get out of this is understanding that other people have to deliver bad news to you, and you'll have to do it to other people.
Yeah.
So try to be thoughtful and kind, and try to be objective.
There you go.
If we're letting our biases take control of the conversation, well, we're living in our own perception. We're not.
Right.
It's not based in reality.
Right.
So the more objective you can be, I feel like the better outcome is going to be created when you're either giving or receiving bad news in general.
Right.
I think we're just going to be in a much better place.
Yeah, socially, environmentally, absolutely. Stop expecting other people to be aware of and abide by our perception of reality, and just understand that they have their own as well. Just communication is difficult. It's something you got to work on. Either with a person, building a relationship. Me and my wife, we talk all the time, every night. We make sure we spend 25-30 minutes hanging out, talking about shit. And normally it's about nonsense or TikToks she saw during the day or bullshit like that. But it's communication. It's consistent relationship building. I have to give her bad news all the time. She has to give me bad news. I'm pregnant. Oh, God. Just kidding. Not really.
Because you perceive babies in this sort of negative light. In reality,
I don't perceive babies in a negative light. I just perceive babies in a negative light. Well, I feel like delivering bad news with minimizing the negative impact was definitely touched on in this episode. And that was the intention of it. That was a topic that we were trying to stay to. There's a million ways to do it, and it's going to be different for every person, for every situation, for your industry. You know what I mean? It's so different. There's no one way. There's no key. There's no secret sauce to it. It's just being aware that you have to steer your intentions with the information. You have to steer how you want them to react to it. And if you don't take that time in consideration, you have no control. You lose all control. You give it all to the person receiving the bad news, which generally doesn't ever work out right.
Nope.
Yeah.
I think you summarized it perfectly.
Wow, it's the first time for everything, man. Well, thanks for checking out this episode, everybody. I really appreciate your support and taking the time out of your life to listen to us chat about shit. If you enjoyed this, let us know. If there's something specific you want us to talk about and rant about, chat about, look up, and teach you about, let us know, and we'll do our best. So thank you, and as always, have a great day.